From my story to your story, let's talk about grief. I will share my own grief journey, along with interviewing others about their path of sorrow and healing. I hope that you, the listener, will hear something that helps as you navigate your own grief, and that God will be glorified along the way. This content is meant as a discussion and not to give professional help. Let's get started.
Just a couple weeks after, I noticed things were not normal. Things felt different. And so then the option became that I was not naturally miscarrying, so I had to go to the hospital and we had to deliver the baby. So I was 18 weeks at that point. Okay. Just very upset. And you think, well, you had 2 children. You know, what's the big deal? But for us, we were so excited. Of course, it's new life, and we were excited about one more.
That's mine, Anna. If you're watching on YouTube, to like and subscribe. If you are listening on the podcast, please like and follow. We would love for you to do that now to help our channel grow and become a blessing to others.
Have you ever felt like talking about a miscarriage was taboo? I know I did when I had a miscarriage, and I think my sister felt that way. So I have my sister Laura here with me today. And we are going to discuss her story, what she went through. So I'm going to just, well, first of all, on the lighthearted side, let's tell them how many years there are between us.
Ooh, seems like a bunch.
No.
I do know you're much older.
I am older.
I would say 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years older. So this is one of my, not my baby sister, but my kind of baby sister.
Yeah.
We have one younger than even both of us, but so today I am going to talk to Laura about her story and what she went through and what that was like, in hopes that it will help someone out there, or you'll be able to resonate with this, and that people in the future will feel like they can talk more openly and readily about what they go through when they experience a miscarriage. So to start today with you, Laura, I really just want you to first of all describe the point you were at in life and what happened.
Well, we had a family. We waited 12 years. I shouldn't say we waited, but we waited for our first child for 12 years. We weren't able to get pregnant, and so it took a long time, so we were very excited. We probably would have had 10 kids had we started much earlier, but it didn't happen that way. So we had a little girl, and then we had a little boy. And then when he was about 1.5 years old, I got pregnant with our third. And it was exciting. We were excited, and we did not tell many people because it was just a little bit older. Okay. And so for pregnancy, they called me geriatric pregnancy always. But anyway, as it was coming, we didn't want to tell everybody. We just wanted to be on the safe side. So we waited and waited. So at about 16 weeks, we decided to tell our family and our friends, and we did that. We told our little girl. She was about 3.5 at the time, so we told her, and we were all very excited. And then just shortly after, just a couple weeks after, I noticed things were not normal. Things felt different, and so I became a little bit concerned, and so I went to the doctor, and when I did, I knew things were not right by their expressions. They're not allowed to tell you immediately, so then I had to go for the ultrasound. And I went across to the ultrasound building and had that done. And I could tell immediately by the way the technician reacted. She wasn't allowed to tell me, but she reacted. So anyway, they called the doctor in, and the doctor came in and told me my baby was dead, basically.
And he said it like that.
Yes, he did.
I think that's important to
note, yeah.
Yeah, to note that he was actually very unkind.
He was, and it was just a matter of fact, like, this is the way it is, we're sorry, move on. And so that was devastating, of course, when I could tell they couldn't find a heartbeat, but then when he came in, he was very abrupt and very harsh. And so that was devastating, and I was alone because Mike was working, and we didn't realize the way this would go. And so anyway, I had to get a hold of him, and he had to come and meet me. But I just remember going out to the car, and just, of course, I lost it. I was bawling and just very upset. And you think, well, you had 2 children, you know, what's the big deal? But for us, we were so excited. Of course, it's new life, and we were excited about one more. And I was just so shocked. I think Mike was as well, and we didn't know where to go with that. And so anyway, then the option became that I was not naturally miscarrying, so I had to go to the hospital and we had to deliver the baby. So I was 18 weeks at that point.
Okay.
So 18 weeks along and you have to deliver. And so I went into the hospital and we had the delivery and just so many questions. And so, how you're going to do that. It just brought up back all of the excitement of having children. Then going through it again in this way was just so heavy. And just really hard we struggled. We didn't have time to brace ourselves to talk about it, to even know what we were doing and what to expect or how to go through it. So we're there together and we're trying to navigate our way through that, which we did. But the nurse...
And because people don't talk about it, you don't even know what to expect. Like, they throw a few choices at you, but...
Right. They were asking you how you want to do everything. So then when that procedure was complete and we delivered the baby, that was hard. You go through the same... It's not as hard a labor or delivery, but when you go through it, you're still going through the whole process and you know what's happening and how hard that is.
And not a joyful outcome.
No, you already know what's coming. And so that was very difficult. And then we did that, and then they ask you, do you want to see the baby? Do you want to bury the baby? Do you want to, all the things that you don't even know. You just have no clue. And at that time, it felt more procedural. Like they just do this, and you go on, and they can maybe stop and ask you a few things. But I just didn't know, and Mike didn't either. And so it was very, very heavy, very, very hard. And so after all of that, the hospital will take care of the remains, or you can, I know now people bury their child, people name their child, people do all of the things. We're not aware of that, and we didn't get to do that. And so that, is hard and sad. So I think it's, not that you'd want to talk about it to someone who's expecting, but it's good to know the things.
It's nice to just know, to hear about it ahead of time and it not be so... Like I said, taboo.
It was.
You just feel wrong talking about it sometimes. I don't know why we did at that stage.
I know that you had been through it. I know my mom had. My mother-in-law had. But that's all I knew.
Yeah.
They'd been through a miscarriage. I didn't know. It was just very hush. Everybody went through it. You just didn't know. And so I feel like it should be talked about more for sure. It is serious grief. It is a serious loss. And, we obviously believe we lost our child. We believe that our child is in heaven and that we will one day see our child.
Right.
And so that's exciting. After we went through the process, which we didn't know this until we did, it was a little boy. Oh. And, we didn't know that. And we have a little boy too. At the time, we had a little boy in also, but it was just neat and exciting to think that we would be having another one. So anyway, so now that we know that, that's something to look forward to, of course, to know that one day I'll get to meet my other son. So anyway, but it was very difficult when we came home and had to face the family and two little ones looking up at me, just excited and happy and had no clue what was going on.
Yeah.
So to come home and just resume life and just do everything like everything's normal, and physically you don't feel too bad, a day or two and you're fine. And
but you do. I remember even miscarrying way earlier than you did. Emotionally, your body does something like it. There's a. I'm trying to think of what the word is. Just what we're talking about is there's a grief that starts to happen right away.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure. And so emotionally, I definitely think. It was pretty dark, and I felt very heavy for a few days. For a long time actually, but I cried a lot. And for me, I try not to do that in front of the other kids, and try to be as normal as possible because it's not something I wanted to explain to them. I think it should be talked about. It was not age appropriate for them, but so that was difficult. And of course, Mike and I talked about it, and we both grieved. Probably in our own way at the time. And I guess what helped me get to the next step, even for a long time, I was fortunate. I was at home with two kids. I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to go to church, and I didn't for a little while because that was hard for me. I did not want to see people. I mean, very different than your grief, but also, you just kind of want to withdraw. You do. And you don't want to see people, and you don't want to face that fact, maybe the reality. Maybe that brings the reality more, not to mention every time you see someone, they want to apologize, they want to go through it, and you just don't. Right. I think I may have even said before, my pastor called at the time, and he wanted to come for a visit, and I was just like, I'm not ready for that. I'm not yet. And then I will say,
kind of him to offer.
It was.
And I say that because people don't know what to do when something happens with somebody. It's so awkward. They don't know what to say. So,
right.
Maybe offer, but the other person should feel like I can say no. I can't.
Yes, I agree. And I was really to a place I just wasn't where I could do that. But then in time we did talk with him as we went back to church, and things became more normal for us. But I think probably what helped me the most would be the many, many people that I did hear from. Like this was surprising to me. For as much as it's not talked about, so many women reached out to me. Like I probably got 50 cards from people saying, I've been right where you are. I went through this. I lost all different times through the pregnancy. People would talk about, what they went through and how they lost a child, or they had a stillborn, or one lady, I remember her telling me it was like 8.5 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I never knew that about her, is my
Right.
point. It was never spoken about. Nobody ever said. So I was blown away by how many people went through it and how they felt, and they could relate.
Okay.
But it would have been great to know, which people did reach out to me, so that was great.
Yeah.
But I just think it's something that on a larger scale, I wish people knew more about and could talk about, for sure. But anyway, that was, I think, what helped me get through and to that point of a place of appreciating what other people thought and how they felt, and to help me get through it, and that it was normal.
Right.
And, you maybe feel like, as a woman, you feel like it's not just a loss, but it's also a failure, almost.
I do think that, I do think that that's why we, at least in the past, I think it's why people feel a little almost like ashamed of it, is because you think, is it something I did? Is there something wrong with me? Where we're normalizing, when I say normal, grief is not normal, but being able to talk about it, or having things like this where it's talked about more, I think will help people realize, it's not, and it will help others realize that you're going through something very heavy and need checked on.
Well, it is true, and you do, and I'm probably more withdrawn than most as far as when things like that happen. I want to get through my emotions, and then I would prefer to talk about it as I'm more comfortable now. But even then, a little bit different for us also. We were so late having children in our life that after that one, it was very final for us, because the doctor made it clear that there was some issues with this baby, obviously. And a lot of times, a lot of people say that with miscarriage, oh, well, that's probably better and whatever. Of course, you don't see it that way.
No.
But I do feel like God had a reason. I trust that. But I think for me, a lot of people, it happens the first time around, which would also be a whole different devastating. But I think that for us, that was it. And so it was so harsh to not only lose that baby, but no, we're done. This is it, and we're done. And so that was hard as well, I think, just for where we were at in life.
Because women go through something when they get, even if they decide not to have more children and they wait a few years, and then they're kind of in that stage where, oh, you know what? Are we doing the right thing by not having any more children? And then you question it. And so you went through losing a child and that finality of, probably, we're not going to have any more.
This is done. Yes. Yeah. So that was hard. That's
a hard grief.
Very hard for me. But anyway, I do think friends and family definitely get you through. I also think your faith gets you through. I was probably a little bitter with maybe even, I remember in the early years I was. And then God blessed us with 2 children. And then I felt bad about that. And then in this as well, because I always want to know, show me, explain it to me. There's got to be a good reason. And so then in the end with this, I felt like I just didn't understand, and I was a little bit bitter about that. But then, I think we quickly prayed our way through, and we got to a place of feeling like this was definitely God's plan for us. We have a perfect little family, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. But in this, I know He has a plan and a purpose, so you just get through it like that.
Which is what I do think is the best outcome in grief, is to eventually turn that around and be grateful for what you have, acknowledge the loss you have, and trust God that He knows what's best, even though that's way, way harder than it sounds.
Well, I agree. And I know some people younger than us that have been through similar situations, and they do it differently now. They name the baby and they celebrate the birth and all of those things, even in the death of it. But that's just what they do. So I think that's a good thing. For me, even personally, we don't talk about it a lot. My kids know about it. We've discussed it some, but we don't go in great detail with that. We just never did. But I guess that happened in the fall, in like October. So that Christmas, I went out and I bought a little angel ornament. And I think it's engraved just Rejoice, because we didn't have a name. So maybe that's the name.
Maybe that's the name.
But anyway, so I hang that on the tree every year. I get it out and I put it on the side of the tree. And most people don't even know when they come to my house what that's for. Or
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah. So for me, that's just a little way to be sure that I'm thinking about it. You think about it a lot, but I think about it. I remember it. I celebrate it, and I put it on my tree, and it's just part of me. So I'm not going to cry.
Like something in the family. It's okay to cry.
But there are things like there was things that help you. I don't know, remember it in a way that is more tangible, maybe.
Yes.
We had friends that were expecting, and when we did go back to church, and bless their hearts, they waited so long to share their news because they knew how hard this was for us, and their little guy would be just a little bit younger than ours would have been. And so, they struggled to tell us, and I feel so bad about that, but they did, and it was sweet when they did tell us, because obviously we were happy for them, and we celebrated that, and watched them raise their children. But it served over the years as a little reminder. Often I would see him playing or doing whatever, and I would remember that's how old my child would be, So I think that's true for a lot of moms. I think it's just a difficult, even when you can't get pregnant, it's also hard, for a lot of people. That's another hardship of a grief almost, of how,
definitely
when you're seeing other people moving. Anytime you're seeing someone else move through life normally and you're not. It's difficult. So there's some little tangible things that I see and that I've known over the years that have helped me. You wouldn't think it would help, because sometimes it's like, when I am putting up the Christmas, if you know me, you know that I love Christmas. And when I'm getting that all out in happy times, but when I'm putting up that little ornament, I cry. I'm usually here alone, and I do it by myself, and I cry a lot because it's sad. But it's a good way.
But it's a way for you to honor him and remember.
Yeah, and it's a good way to commemorate it for you, or just to know that this is. I think it's important to acknowledge it.
Yes,
maybe as opposed to often when we were young. Of course we were young when my mom went through it, and I didn't really know.
Right.
You know what I mean? What was that? I knew something was not right, but I didn't know. And my kids can't remember it really. They only know because we've told them. But I think it's important for people to know and to talk about it, and to talk about it with other people and remember it and all those things. I think that's helpful.
And I think the helpful thing also, I agree with you on all of that, and the helpful thing of talking about it is then when someone else goes through it, that they don't feel shame, or that it's something they can't talk about, even if they want to be alone. I understand in the grief
everybody's different.
But just to be able to talk about when they want to, or not feel ashamed like they did something wrong. I think I mentioned that in another video, just, where you wonder, did I do something wrong, or is God punishing me for something? You have questions in your mind, that go through. But, so he would, at the time of this interview, he would be in high school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. because I have 2 in college, and I would still have
So
one in
you-
high
you
school.
would still
And
have
he
one
knows how tired I am, so maybe he definitely knew. No, I do think his provision for us and for what he knew was best for us or for that child or for whatever it is. I feel I've come, this many years later, of course, I've come
Yes.
to terms with that, and I feel certain that I would not be ready to teach another child to drive right now. So maybe there's that.
And I know that we both agree on the fact that we believe from the scriptures, God shows that children who are not of the age of understanding their sinful condition and accepting him as Savior are safe, and rather than saved or whatever, and that, that babies do go to heaven.
Yes.
So we are both looking forward to seeing
Meeting him.
our little. I don't know if mine was a boy or a girl. Surely it's a girl after having three.
One with
Three
them,
boys. But truthfully, the funny thing is, I still picture a boy in my mind.
That's funny.
When I picture,
Yeah.
So
Probably.
'cause I think I'm incapable of having
Yeah.
girls. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Probably.
we look forward to meeting them in heaven, and
Yeah.
so there's a joy to that part,
Yeah.
and knowing that they're there. But so one of the things I would say, just to reiterate how you said you came through it, I know time, but instead of bitterness getting worse, you actually were able to resolve that, and you give that credit to mainly just prayer and scriptures.
Oh, for sure. I think over time, like I said, maybe in the beginning or at least for me, I'm a little bitter and I'm a little hard-headed. It takes me a little longer to remember that it's all in God's hands, and he will give and take as he sees fit or as he needs. And so much prayer, much reading. Also, like I said, many Christian people breathing things into me or saying things to me that, help me think about it from that perspective. So I certainly think prayer is probably the greatest thing that gets you through. But I think...
and you said you told me earlier, your 2 littles just... there's a bad to that in that you have to keep going, and you don't get a break. But on the other hand, there's a joy to being around them.
I totally feel for a mom who's the first time around.
Yeah.
And and I'm sure you'll talk to some about that, I hope, because that's a different,
Yes, I have one lined up for that.
That's a very different thing, because I think for me, number one, I had 2 perfect children that, that God sent to us, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. But every day to have it, almost a 2 and 4-year-old that were running around and not stopping, and it does help heal your heart a little faster, I think. So yeah, that definitely helps.
So I guess in conclusion, what if you could say something to him, Rejoice, or whatever we're going to call him, what would you say at this point?
Well, I would definitely say I love you. Mm-hmm. Would definitely say that. We wish we could have known you here. So, yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so no, that would be, definitely that we love you and that it would have been good to know you.
I take great comfort, when Don, my husband, first died and went to heaven. One of the first things I thought of was, he's there with our child, who's not a child per se. I don't know how all that works.
Right, I don't either,
we'll
but
all that out. God's got all that figured out. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I do appreciate you sharing your heart with us, how you came through that, and what it was like, and maybe that someone listening to it will think I have, choices when they're faced with some of the things you were faced with.
Yeah, definitely.
And we hope from this that other ladies will feel like they can talk about the grief they have from after a miscarriage.
Because it's real. Yeah, you need to take time. I don't know if we said that, but definitely.
Yes.
Take time to grieve.
Yes, actually, I will go back and touch on that really quickly. I feel like so many times, people have a miscarriage and that next day or two they're supposed to resume all of life and act
Right.
normal, when really it's not the case
No,
necessarily.
like I said, I was home, and even though, like you say, busy with 2 children, and that keeps you busy, but I still could steal away time and moments to think about it and to grieve about it or to pray about it, however you choose to do that. But I think it's really important. And like I said, just maybe even a note would be noteworthy to reach out to people that are going through it, because that did help me tremendously, just to know that many.
Like, don't think of it as awkward. Go ahead and text that person, call that person, take something by, send them a card, go by and see if they need anything done or they need help with something, or
Right.
definitely.
Yeah. So I think but definitely take the time.
Okay. So as we close out, I guess what we would both say to our children would be not that was goodbye, but we'll see you later.
See you soon.
See you soon.
See you soon or see you later. Yes.
Yes.
We appreciate you joining us today at Speak Your Grief with Sonia. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, as new episodes are added weekly. Thank you again for joining us as we unpack our grief. We hope you have been reminded that you are not alone in this journey.